The ultrasound photo slipped out of Nora's bag and landed face up in a rain puddle between the divorce papers. Adrian stared at the tiny white blur on the screen, then up at the woman he had just legally erased from his life. "You don't get to look shocked now," Nora said, her voice shaking harder than her hands. "I tried to tell you before you destroyed everything." If stories like this hit somewhere deep, subscribe, like the video, and tell me in the comments where your heart broke first. Because this one doesn't let go until the very last second. The courthouse steps were crowded, but Adrian heard nothing except the blood roaring in his ears. Pregnant. His ex-wife was pregnant. And from the way she pressed one trembling hand against her stomach, she had been carrying his child while he stood in front of a judge and ended their marriage with a cold face and a colder signature. "Nora." His voice cracked on her name. She bent to pick up the photo, but he moved first. Their hands touched for half a second. She flinched. That hurt more than the divorce. "Don't." She pulled her hand back like he was fire. "You wanted freedom, Adrian. Take it." "I didn't know." Her laugh came out small and broken. "That's the problem. You never knew anything. You just decided." She turned and walked down the courthouse stairs into the rain. For 1 second, Adrian didn't move. Then he did what proud men only do after they've lost everything. He followed her. "Nora, wait!" She didn't. Cars splashed through dirty water. People looked. A woman under a yellow umbrella slowed down to stare as Adrian Kessler, perfect suit, expensive watch, the man whose face had been printed in business magazines, ran through the street after the wife he had divorced an hour earlier. "Nora, please!" She stopped at the crosswalk, but didn't turn around. "That word sounds ugly coming from you now," she said. The light changed. She crossed. He followed. That was the first time. It wouldn't be the last. 3 months earlier, Adrian would have sworn there was nothing in this world he loved more than Nora. Not his company, not his name, not the glossy towers he designed and signed in silver ink. Her. Nora had met him when he was still borrowing train money and pretending instant noodles were a choice. She loved him before the custom suits, before the interviews, before the board members slapped his back and called him visionary. She loved him when all he had was a sketchbook, insomnia, and a dangerous amount of pride. She used to wait for him in their tiny first apartment, barefoot on the cold kitchen floor, grading music assignments from her students while soup simmered on the stove. He would come home exhausted, loosen his tie, and find her humming to herself. And just like that, the noise in his head would stop. That was the part that made what he did so unforgivable. He had not divorced a woman who abandoned him. He had divorced the one person who never did. The fracture started with grief. Adrian's father died on a Tuesday morning with hospital light on his face and disappointment in his final silence. They had not spoken properly in weeks. Adrian had been too busy, too ambitious, too sure there would be more time. There wasn't. After the funeral, the house changed. His mother, Evelyn, began moving through rooms like a ghost with opinions. She had always tolerated Nora with thin politeness, but after her husband died, that politeness rotted into blame. "You were softer before her," Evelyn told Adrian one night. He was drinking whiskey he didn't even want. "She made you sentimental. Your father built men, not poets." Adrian rubbed his eyes. "Not now, Mom." "She's too quiet," Evelyn said. "Quiet women always hide the sharpest knives." He should have defended Nora harder. He did defend her at first. Then business turned ugly. One of Adrian's biggest development contracts collapsed overnight after confidential numbers were leaked to a competitor. The board exploded. Investors panicked. The press got hold of words like internal breach and financial instability, and those words spread like oil fire. Adrian barely slept. Then Evelyn handed him photographs. Nora, sitting across from a man in a gray coat outside a law office. Another of Nora sliding a thick envelope across the table. A third of her entering a bank with the same man. "Who is he?" Adrian asked. Evelyn said nothing for a second. That silence did the damage. Then she placed another document in front of him. A draft asset division agreement. His throat tightened. "No. I didn't want to believe it either," Evelyn whispered. "But I hired someone after the leak. She's preparing." Adrian stared at Nora's signature at the bottom. It looked real. That night, Nora came home late and pale. He was waiting in the living room, the papers spread out in front of him like evidence in a murder trial. She saw them, and something in her face changed. Not guilt, fear. But Adrian was too angry to know the difference. "Who is he?" he asked. Nora put down her bag carefully. "Where did you get those?" "So it's true." "Adrian, listen to me." "No, you listen to me." He stood so fast the glass on the table shook. "While my company is bleeding, while my father is barely in the ground, you're meeting lawyers behind my back?" Her eyes filled instantly. "It's not what you think." "Then what is it?" She opened her mouth. Her phone rang. She looked at the screen, and all the color drained from her face. He saw the name. Maya. His younger sister. Nora answered immediately. "Maya? Slow down. Where are you?" Adrian reached for the phone, but Nora turned away. "I'm coming," she said. "Don't do anything until I get there." She ended the call and grabbed her coat. "Where are you going?" Adrian said. "Maya needs me. Answer me first." "I can't right now." That was the sentence that poisoned everything. "I can't right now." Not, "I would never betray you." Not, "Trust me." Not, "Give me 10 minutes." Just those 4 words. Adrian laughed once, harsh and empty. "Of course. Run." Nora looked at him like she wanted to say something enormous. Instead, she whispered, "Please don't decide who I am at my worst moment." Then she walked out. He decided anyway. Maya came home the next day with swollen eyes and no explanation. Nora stayed silent. Adrian demanded answers from both of them and got none. Every silence felt like proof. Every half-truth felt like another betrayal. 2 weeks later, at a charity gala filled with investors, cameras, and people who smiled with only their teeth, Adrian made the cruelest choice of his life. Nora arrived in a dark blue dress he once told her made her look like midnight. She touched his arm. "Can we go somewhere private?" "I think public is better," he said. She froze. He handed her an envelope. At first, she didn't understand. Then she opened it. Divorce papers. Right there under chandelier light, with violin music floating through the room and businessmen pretending not to stare. "Adrian." Her lips parted, but no sound came out. "You should have taken the deal quietly," he said, voice low and deadly. "You didn't have to humiliate me first." "I never." Enough. People were definitely watching now. Nora looked around the room, not for pity, but like someone checking whether dignity had any exits left. "Do you really believe this about me?" she asked. And here was the moment that could have saved them. If he had looked at her for 1 second longer. If he had noticed her hands trembling. If he had seen the hurt instead of his own ego. But pain makes cowards of men who confuse certainty with strength. Yes, he said. That one word shattered her more cleanly than shouting ever could. She nodded once. No scene, no screaming, no begging. That was almost worse. Then there's nothing to save, she said. She signed 3 days later. The divorce moved fast because Adrian made sure it did. What he didn't know was that Nora spent those same 3 days doing things no one else in his family would ever have done. She sold the small music studio her mother left her. She transferred the money quietly to cover a gap in one of Adrian's company accounts. She met the lawyer again to protect Maya. And on the 4th night, alone in a taxi on the way home from another humiliating conversation she never should have had to survive, she began to bleed. The first baby died before Adrian ever knew it existed. He learned that much later. And when he did, it nearly destroyed him. But before the truth came, there was the rain, the courthouse, the ultrasound, and the beginning of his public collapse. After that day, Adrian started showing up everywhere Nora went. At first it was instinct, then guilt, then desperation. Outside her school after the final bell, at the pharmacy while she picked up vitamins, across the street from the clinic where she refused to let him walk her inside, at the bus stop when clouds gathered. He stood there holding an umbrella she didn't take. "You need to stop following me," Nora said one evening without looking at him. "You're carrying my child." Her jaw tightened. "I am carrying my child. Whether you become that baby's father in any meaningful way is still a decision I haven't made." The bus hissed to a stop. She got on. He stood on the sidewalk in the rain until the bus disappeared. The next day, he brought soup. The day after that, prenatal vitamins. Then ginger tea because he remembered she got nauseous in the mornings. She didn't take any of it. One evening, after she shut the apartment building door in his face, the elderly doorman looked at Adrian with something between pity and disgust. "You rich people always apologize after the funeral," he muttered. Adrian stood there for a long time. Then he did the first honest thing he had done in months. He started digging for the truth. Not to defend himself, to finally deserve the facts. He went to the law office from the photographs. The lawyer in the gray coat was named Samuel Hart. Samuel took one look at Adrian and almost threw him out. "I have nothing to say to you." "I know Nora was here." Samuel's face hardened. "You don't get to use her first name like you own it." Adrian swallowed. "She's pregnant." Samuel's anger flickered into surprise, then sadness. "She told you?" "No, I found out by accident." Samuel laughed bitterly. "That fits." Adrian placed both hands on the desk. "Please, I know I don't deserve help, but I need to know what I did." Samuel stared at him, and whatever he saw must have looked broken enough, because he finally opened a file drawer and pulled out copies. Bank receipts, property sale forms, legal documents creating a protection fund for Maya. Adrian felt his knees weaken. "What is this?" "This," Samuel said coldly, "is your wife trying to keep your sister out of prison, cover a financial hole in your company, and stop your cousin Leo from blackmailing Maya with her gambling debt." Adrian blinked. "What?" Samuel's voice sharpened. "Nora found Leo siphoning money from one of your accounts months ago. He had Maya trapped. She begged Nora not to tell you because you were already falling apart after your father died." Adrian's mouth went dry. She met me to find a legal way to protect Maya and buy time. She sold her mother's studio to plug part of the loss, so your board wouldn't detect it before we had proof. And when she needed more time, when she needed you to trust her for one damn week, you handed her divorce papers in front of a room full of strangers. Adrian couldn't speak. Samuel slid one more paper across the desk. A hospital bill. Nora Hale. Emergency obstetric care. Date, 2 days after the gala. Adrian stared at it without understanding. Then his body did. "No," he whispered. Samuel's voice dropped. She was pregnant then, too. The room tilted. Adrian gripped the edge of the desk. No. She lost the baby alone. She sat in that hospital by herself because she said she would rather bleed quietly than beg love from a man who had already made up his mind. That was the moment Adrian broke. Not dramatically, not with shouting, just a slow collapse inward, like a building realizing too late its foundation had been cut. He left the office and threw up in the parking lot. For the first time since boyhood, he cried in daylight. He went to Maya next. His sister opened the door, saw his face, and immediately started crying. "I was going to tell you," she said before he could speak. "I swear I was. Leo had pictures, messages. He said he'd send them everywhere. He said you'd hate me. Nora was protecting me. She made me promise." "You let me destroy her." Maya covered her mouth. "I know." "You watched me." "I watched because I was scared!" Maya screamed, then crumpled against the wall. "And because every time she tried to speak, you looked at her like she was already guilty." That hit because it was true. Maya led him to her room and opened a drawer. Inside was a small knitted pair of white baby booties. "Nora made these," Maya said through tears. "For the first baby." Adrian took them with shaking hands. There are moments when remorse stops feeling emotional and starts feeling physical. This was one. The booties were light. His guilt wasn't. That night, Adrian went to his mother. Evelyn sat in the dark sunroom with her tea untouched. He placed the receipts, the hospital bill, the booties, and the fraud documents on the table in front of her. For once, she had no quick opinion, only silence. "You hired someone to follow my wife," Adrian said. "You fed me suspicion when I needed truth." "I was trying to protect you." "No, you were trying to be right." Evelyn looked older suddenly, smaller. "I didn't know about the baby." "Neither did I," Adrian said. "That's my shame, not yours. Mine." He turned to leave. "Adrian," she said softly. He stopped. "If she gives you another chance, don't come back here looking for advice." He didn't answer, because he knew now that forgiveness wasn't going to come from speeches. It had to be earned in wounds. The next morning, Nora fainted outside the clinic. Adrian was there because, by then, he couldn't stop himself from making sure she got home safely, even when she hated him for it. He caught her before she hit the pavement. Her body was frighteningly light. At the hospital, the doctor came out with tight lips and tired eyes. "Stress is dangerous for her right now. She has a subchorionic bleed. If this pregnancy is going to survive, she needs stability." Stability. A word Adrian had stolen from her and now couldn't buy back with all his money. When Nora woke up, she saw him in the chair by the bed and closed her eyes again. "Please leave." I know about Leo, he said. She went still. I know about Maya, the money, the studio, the first baby. Her face crumpled before she could stop it. That hurt him because even now, after all he had done, part of her still didn't want him seeing her pain. You weren't supposed to find out like that, she whispered. How was I supposed to find out, Nora? I never gave you room to speak. Tears slid silently into her hair. I was going to tell you the truth the night of the gala. And the baby. Everything. She laughed bitterly. I even practiced how to say it in the cab. Adrian pressed his fist to his mouth. She turned to him fully now, eyes red, voice suddenly sharp enough to cut. Do you know what broke me? Not the divorce, not even the humiliation. It was that I kept waiting for you to know me. I kept thinking the man who loved me would show up before the papers did. He had no defense. I was wrong, she said. He nodded because that was all left. Yes. A week later, Leo made his move. Fraud is greedy, but blackmail is panic. He found out Nora had given Samuel copies of the financial records. He started calling Maya again, threatening, drunk, unstable. Then he sent Adrian a message. If you want the full truth, come alone. Abandoned warehouse, midnight. Adrian went. Not because he was brave, because fear had finally found the right target. Leo was waiting with 2 men and a grin that belonged on a corpse. You always were the golden one, Leo sneered. Big buildings, big headlines. Shame your wife was smarter. Adrian moved toward him. Where's Maya? Leo laughed. Safe, for now. But Nora? She's the real problem. She keeps choosing your family over herself. It's pathetic. Adrian hit him, hard. The men jumped in. Fists, metal, concrete. The kind of fight with no choreography and too much breath. But Adrian had come prepared. Police lights flooded the broken windows. Samuel had insisted on recording the calls. Leo ran. He didn't get far. When it was over, Adrian sat on the filthy floor with blood in his mouth and his knuckles split open, and felt none of it compared to the damage he'd already done at home. Nora came to the station because Maya begged her to. When she saw Adrian's face, she stopped. He looked at her and almost smiled from pure ruin. You still came. Because Maya called. Right. She took a breath. You need stitches. You needed a husband. That landed between them like a blade. For the first time, Nora looked away first. Leo's arrest made the board crisis explode publicly. Adrian could have buried it quietly. He didn't. At the emergency board meeting, in front of executives, investors, and the same kind of people who had watched his wife get humiliated months earlier, Adrian stood at the head of the glass table and did something no one expected from a man like him. He confessed. Not the polished version, not the strategic one. The truth. My company was not nearly destroyed by my wife, he said. It was saved by her. While I suspected her, she was selling her inheritance to protect my family and cover fraud I should have seen. I failed as a leader. I failed as a husband. The person most loyal to me paid the price for my arrogance. No one moved. Some people looked uncomfortable. Good. He wanted discomfort. He wanted witnesses. Then he submitted his own temporary step-down from the CEO role pending internal review. Public humiliation had taken Nora from him. Public truth was the least he owed her. That evening, he stood outside her apartment again. No flowers this time. No gifts. Just himself. Nora opened the door a few inches. "I saw the board statement," she said. "I meant every word." She studied him in silence. Then, "Do you know why I haven't forgiven you?" "Because I don't deserve it." "That's part of it." Her voice shook. "But mostly because you keep apologizing like the end goal is getting me back. Adrian, I am not a house you can rebuild after you burn it down." He closed his eyes. She went on, softer now, more dangerous because it was honest. "I loved you in every version. Poor, angry, grieving, impossible. And when it was your turn to love me through silence, through confusion, through one terrible season, you chose doubt." He nodded slowly. "You're right." "I know." The door almost closed. Then he said, "I'm not asking you to come back tonight." She stopped. "I'm asking for the chance to become someone who would never do this to you again. Even if all I ever get from you is permission to be a decent father." For a long moment, there was only the hum of the hallway light. Then Nora whispered, "Come to the next appointment." His head lifted. "What?" "Don't make me repeat myself." The door shut. Adrian stood there smiling through tears like a man who had just been allowed one drop of water in a desert. He took it, and he did not waste it. He went to every appointment, sat through every blood test, learned how to count kicks, cooked badly and kept trying. When her ankles swelled, he knelt on the floor and massaged them without speaking unless she spoke first. When nightmares woke her, he didn't reach for her unless she asked. He moved into the guest room only after a winter storm flooded her building and she had nowhere safe to stay. Even then, he treated forgiveness like something fragile on the other side of glass. Months passed. Trust did not come back all at once. It arrived in almost invisible things. A cup of tea left on his desk. Her texting him first when the baby kicked hard. The night she laughed, a real laugh, when he assembled the crib backward and nearly trapped himself inside it. Then labor came early. It was rain again. Of course it was rain. Nora gripped the car door and gasped, "If you run a red light, I'll kill you before the contractions do." Adrian looked half insane, half terrified. "That's actually comforting." At the hospital, things turned dangerous fast. The baby's heart rate dropped. Doctors moved quickly, nurses faster. They wheeled Nora toward surgery, and for 1 second she reached for him with blind panic. He grabbed her hand. "I'm here." Her fingers crushed his. "Don't let me go in there alone again." The again nearly killed him. He bent over her, forehead to hers. "Never," he said, and this time it sounded like a vow built from broken pieces, not ego. Never again. Their daughter arrived screaming, furious, perfect. When the nurse placed the baby in Adrian's arms, he looked at the tiny face, the wet, dark hair, the furious little mouth, and understood that love was not the feeling that had ruined him. Pride was. Love was this. Terrifying, humbling, clean. Nora watched him from the bed, exhausted and pale. He carried the baby over with both hands like prayer. "She has your eyes," he whispered. "No," Nora said softly. "Those are your mother's eyes."
He panicked for half a second. Then Nora smiled, actually smiled, and the room changed. Weeks later, when the house was quiet and the baby finally asleep, Adrian found Nora in the nursery rocking chair, moonlight across her face. He stood in the doorway. "She likes your humming," he said. Nora looked down at their daughter. "She likes safety." He accepted that. After a while, she said, "Do you know what I waited for all these months?" He leaned against the doorframe. "What?"
For you to stop chasing forgiveness and start living differently, even when no one was watching. He didn't speak. She lifted her eyes to his. "You did." Adrian breathed in once, carefully, like hope itself might spook if he moved too fast. Nora stood, placed the baby in his arms, and walked past him to the door. When she reached it, she turned. "This isn't a fairy tale," she said. "You don't get the old marriage back." "I know. You don't get the old me back either." His voice came out rough. "I know." She nodded. "But if you still want one more chance." Her eyes filled, but she didn't look away. "Come to breakfast tomorrow." Not as a man trying to erase what he did, as a man ready to spend the rest of his life proving he finally understands what love costs. Adrian looked down at the sleeping child in his arms, then back at the woman he had once broken and now, somehow, still had a chance to honor. And in that quiet nursery, with rain tapping softly against the window and his daughter breathing against his chest, he realized the miracle was never that Nora might forgive him. The miracle was that after seeing the worst of him, she still believed the best of him might be worth fighting for.